Have you ever played a game before and it just totally sucked? And I don't mean it's so bad it's good kind of bad. I mean it's just so bad it's bad. Hey guys, I'm RNG Gamer. I play all my games randomly, and here are the worst games I've ever played. Now, some of these games might have some redeeming qualities in them that make them okay at points, but there's still some huge flaw in them that just ruins them, in my opinion. And some of these games are such hot garbage, I don't really have anything good to say about them. Let's talk about the first game. It's Saint on the Nintendo Wii. I played this game 9 years ago and said it was the worst game I've ever played. And then I played it again 3 years ago, and my opinion did not get much better. You play as Sengoku, the Monkey King from the traditional Chinese folklore tale Journey to the West, but this time they've given him like this teenage attitude, so he's super like edgy and snarky and crappy all the time, exactly the sort of thing that like a father doesn't like to hear. I've heard people online say that this game looks like a bad Super Nintendo game, and they're not wrong at all. That's exactly what it looks like. The character design's really bizarre, but the thing that really bugs me about this game the most of all is that the characters have like no animation. It just looks like clip art being dragged around on a computer desktop, for a lack of a better term. That's a good way to describe it. It looks like crap. I can't believe that they were okay with this and published this. There are 7 stages in this game, and each one of them is split into 3 parts. The first part is your standard horizontal side-scrolling kind of stage. The enemy placement's really bizarre, and there's not really any thought put into where the bullets go. They just kind of blanket the freaking screen, and a lot of the damage is unavoidable because the main character is like 20% of the height of the screen, and his hitbox is huge. So I did credit clear this game on normal and easy, but I don't know that this game is beatable on hard mode because you can't avoid damage. There's a spot in the second level where you're under a spaceship that takes up the top 60% of the screen, and you only have this really small area to maneuver underneath it. And wouldn't you know, a freaking mini boss shows up halfway through that and starts shooting asteroids at you that break into smaller pieces when you hit them. There's just no way to avoid the damage. You take up almost the entire gap. That's so frustrating. Why would you have something in a game like that? Now, you can pick up damage upgrades and speed upgrades, and they do help with the game. They do make it easier, believe it or not. But the problem is you lose all of them if you ever die. Now, the first time I played this, I didn't die till stage 5, and when I did die, I became super weak. Now, here's the catch. There were no more damage or speed upgrades for another stage and a half. It wasn't until the beginning of stage 7 that I got any more power-ups. That's bullcrap. What the crap? That's the last stage of the game. You can't just expect people to not be able to recover it all unless you're freaking playing Gradius. But that game's designed around that mechanic. This game's not designed around any mechanic. This game was designed around what can we get the interns in our office to produce within a week. The second part of each level turns into a Space Harrier clone, but way worse. The enemies wait till they're right up on you and blast you from point blank range, and there's really no way to avoid it. It's also really hard to hit the enemies and dodge them because you can't tell how far away they are. There's this weird like arc to your bullets almost, like you're shooting towards the center of the screen, and it's really hard to get the orientation of what's going on. And I always spent my time in these stages just wildly moving around like counterclockwise, praying I didn't get hit and didn't lose my freaking power. The final part of each level goes into a side-scroller, but it's similar to Fantasy Zone or Defender this time, where you can infinitely loop to the left or the right. I actually really like that mechanic, but the problem with this one is the main character moves faster than the screen scrolls, so if you travel too far in one direction without backing up and nudging forward, you'll be all the way against the edge of the screen, and you'll get blasted from off the screen, and the bosses love to do that. They fire these weird patterns that you can't really tell where they're going to go, and they just come out of nowhere and take you out. It is absolutely mind-destroyingly frustrating. Like, I wanted to bash the Wii controller so badly playing this game. And to make matters worse, the game drags on and on and on and on. I think your standard shoot 'em up should be between 20 and 30-ish minutes. This bad boy's like 50 minutes long. Each stage is split into 3 parts. It's really like 21 stages. That's too much for a game that tortures you as badly as Saint does. This is a truly terrible game. I've never met anybody that likes it. I have seen it in the bargain bin of so many Wii sections. Do everything you can to avoid this game. Up next, we have a legendarily terrible game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's Dash Galaxy and the Alien Asylum. My whole life I've seen this game on lists of like the worst games ever, and specifically the worst games on the Nintendo, and they are not wrong. This is a throwback to kind of like Flash Gordon era comics, and obviously Dash looks almost exactly like Flash Gordon, but the cover of the game makes it look like this is going to be a high energy game, and it's not. It starts off in a freaking room that's like a block pushing puzzle. You actually have to slide these blocks out of the way, kind of in a puzzle game, to traverse the 25 floors of the tower you're in. And it's real easy to push them in a way to lock yourself. So it's like everyone's favorite childhood game, slide puzzles, blocking you from being able to play the actual game. There are several rooms on each floor. In addition to having to slide all these freaking blocks around, you also have to solve these puzzles with laser beams and slides and all kinds of crap. And the whole purpose of going in these rooms is to collect oxygen tanks and keys and other things to help you unlock doors to progress up the tower. But the main issue is that 90% of the rooms are just a waste of time. And there are so many rooms. You go in room after room after room and you don't get anything. I think you can probably beat this game by only going in 13 rooms or something like that, as opposed to the, I don't know, 250 or something that are in the game. But you're compelled to go into all these rooms because you need the oxygen tanks and keys and stuff. But some of the rooms are like red herrings and will use up your resources but won't help you advance into the game. So it's this huge trial and error system that's annoying as crap. I hate it so much. You can easily find yourself in a position where you can't succeed because you went in one wrong room, but you can't figure that out till you play like another half an hour. Getting hit by an enemy causes your oxygen level to deplete, and it's usually best to avoid them. Instead of engaging them directly, you just kind of wait for them to meander out of the way and sneak on past, which doesn't really make for a compelling gameplay session. But even that, I could live with. The problem with this game are the freaking terrible controls. Dash doesn't just move when you press on the D-pad. Instead, he like winds up and accelerates. He starts dashing. He goes from like 2 miles an hour to about 300 miles an hour in just about a second or two, and it feels like you're slipping and sliding all over the place. And to make matters worse, the rooms are laid out like the game Chutes and Ladders, where if you land on a certain spot, you'll slide down multiple floors, which is even more irritating. You can't even control where you need to go. It feels like the game is taking the control away from you. So instead of just dashing around, you end up just slowly tapping the freaking D-pad to get to the last pixel of where you need to jump, and then try to jump over that, but the jumping's awkward too, so that doesn't make anything any better for you. There's this weird mechanic where you can't even really jump while you're walking. You have to like walk right up to the edge of something and then jump and press forward to jump the correct way in the correct distance. Don't have different mechanics for jumping in a game where there's only 2 buttons to press. Just don't do that. Why would you ever do that in a game? I don't understand that at all. And just like Saint, there's this crap where the screen doesn't scroll at the same rate as you, so you slowly start getting closer and closer to the edge of the screen, and you can't see what's coming up, and crap will shoot you and hit you from off screen. Super irritating. So the first time I ever played this game, I played through several floors of the tower, and I got up to like the 5th floor or so, and I was running out of oxygen, so I just decided to hop back on the elevator and go back down to explore before. But I accidentally went up to the next floor without clearing any of the rooms, and I realized you don't even have to clear any of the rooms of the game. You can just go up as many floors as you want to until you get to the 10th floor. When I got there, I wasn't able to progress. I got stuck, and I cleared all the rooms on that floor, couldn't figure out what to do, so I went online and looked. Guess what? You're supposed to find secret hidden warps around the game, hidden in these rooms, that will allow you to skip certain floors of the tower. And that's the only way to beat the game. That's the canon way to do it. Imagine if the only way to beat Super Mario Brothers was to know where the warps were. And if you didn't take a warp, the game wouldn't let you progress past that point. That's irritating as crap. That's fine for a speed run, but why build that into your normal game? I just don't get that. So this game's just tons of trial and error. 90% of it ends up being error. You have to find every single warp in the game to be able to beat the game. Every one of them. You can't miss a single one, which is totally unfair. I can't even imagine how much time it took for the collective community of people playing this game to figure out how to beat it without a Nintendo Power, because it seems impossible. But it turns out that after you know where the warps are and what items you need to grab, you can beat the whole game in 10 minutes. That's not speedrun time. That's just how long it takes. That's really irritating, that the whole game is really just 10 minutes long, and then they just built the rest of the game around that to throw you off the path. The purpose of this game is to troll you. It's to take you away from what you're trying to do. It directs you away from your goal rather than leading you towards it like a good game would. That's what makes Dash Galaxy so bad. Not the controls, not the stupid level design, the mindset of the developers. That's what was bad. Up next, we have a game on the Nintendo Switch, which seemed really intriguing, and I went out of my way to import it and play it. And it has some really innovative ideas to it, but the execution of it made this game almost unplayable for me. And that game is Dungeon Encounters. I've covered this game in several different ways. I did a review of this for GameFAQs. I've spoken about it on my channel before. But I am just absolutely dumbfounded that this game ever got made. This game is a dungeon crawler where they have removed all of the assets of the game. There's no areas, there are no graphics, there's no animation, there's not really anything. It's just a grid. It's almost like a prototype for a game. They don't even have text telling you where the save points are or where the shops are or anything like that. They just write a number on the grid and you have to reference the number against some spreadsheet you've made listing that like, yo, yeah, number 5s are save points and number 1s are the stairs down to the next level or whatever it is. And the game has tons of hidden crap in it that you constantly search for. And they want you to traverse each area of the dungeon, every individual square, like you're checking it off a list to be able to progress. That's what this game's about. The combat's just simple turn-based RPG stuff. Nothing you haven't seen before. There's no animations. It's just portraits of the characters and the enemies, and you select something off the attack menu or the magic menu or the item menu or whatever. It's just a standard turn-based RPG. But the fact that there just isn't anything in this game in terms of its presentation is so bizarre. Even the music is just royalty-free classical music played on guitar. There's no like drums or percussion or bass. It's just like 2 guitar tracks, sometimes in harmony, sometimes playing the same thing, sometimes one of them's chugging on some power chords and one's playing lead. It's just very weird. It's a minimalist game. And I get the idea of having that. And I thought I would like it because I love the mechanics of dungeon crawling and grinding in an RPG. I just don't have the imagination to fill in what's going on with the game. It's just the combat scenarios and the min-maxing involved with an RPG without a story, really, or really characters, or really plot, or even graphics, or really even music. It's just strange. It has those things in a way, but they're not really implemented. I spent many hours with this game and I made decent progress in it, but when I say a game gets repetitive, this game gets repetitive. This might be the most repetitive game I've ever played because nothing really changes. You might unlock a new character here and there, but they're all really just kind of the same. I think there was a good premise with this game, and I commend Square Enix, who developed this and put it out, on their bravery, for lack of a better term, by releasing this. But this is just such a strange and bizarre game to play, and I'm really put off by it. Even though I gave this game like a mediocre review, I would much rather play a really truly terrible game than this. I would rather play Saint than this, because at least I feel like I'm doing something and there's something to look at. Did anybody out there in the world other than me play this game? There has to be someone else. There has to be. If you're enjoying the video and you want to see more of me, consider subscribing. Hit the bell notification so you know when the new videos come out. They come out every single Saturday. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I still answer every single one of them and I love reading them. Up next, we have a game on the Sega Genesis that absolutely shocked me when I played it. It's a Disney game on the Genesis. They're usually pretty good. Not this one. It's Beauty and the Beast, Roar of the Lion. So the plot of this is kind of dumb. I think like forest critters invaded Beast's castle and stole a bell and he has to go get her? Maybe. Is that what happened? It doesn't matter. None of it matters because the Beast can't hit crap. His claw strike feels so weird and awkward and unwieldy, and the enemies are all like small bugs and critters and stuff that are positioned in really annoying, dumb ways. This game is so hard, but not because of good game design. It's just hard because the game designers didn't put any thought into what to do. Like, they didn't put the enemies in places that made sense. They didn't put the enemies in places that can be hit very well. There are times where you're standing on like a table and there'll be like a beetle beetle on the ground slightly below you, and there's no way to really hit the beetle unless you jump over past it and quickly turn around and crouch and then swipe it. And it won't work because there's another beetle right in the way next to it. So you're just destined to take damage. The freaking beast jumps like a sack of potatoes, and just jumping over your basic enemies is really tough, and you'll often find yourself just like landing on them and getting hit. Do you think the beast, the giant beast from Beauty and the Beast, can't step on a beetle? The beast sure beat the crap out of Gaston. He should be able to handle a small little beetle. Gaston was jacked and was like a sword fighting hero, right? What sense does this make? What is going on in this game? It's like it was designed to be a different game and they just slapped the Beauty and the Beast logo on it. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. At some point at the end of the game, freaking villagers come running into the castle and the beast just goes crazy and kills them all. You just massacre like these civilians that are trying to come up here and do something good for their town. They don't know what you're up to. You don't care. You just claw them to death. They take a bunch of hits, surprisingly, and they just keep coming and coming and coming, and it's really irritating before the final confrontation with Gaston. Gaston? Is it Gaston? Let me look it up. Hold on. I'll be right back. Gaston. I'm thinking of Father Gascoigne from Bloodborne. It has no redeeming qualities. I would tell anybody to avoid this, and I'm kind of sad that Hudson Soft put this out. They have a really good track record with great games, but not this one. This must have been like not the B team that put it together. It was like the R team. Anyway, absolutely atrocious game. Avoid it as much as you can. One of the worst ones out of the batch. Up next, we have the controversial pick of this video. You always have to have one. And this one is done by a beloved developer who I used to love. I still love them. But this game put me off to liking them as much as I once did. The developer is Treasure, makers of Ikaruga, and the game is Silhouette Mirage. I mentioned Ikaruga earlier, and Ikaruga is a really interesting shoot 'em up that has a polarity mechanic where you can switch from light to dark. When you're dark, you do double damage to light enemies and dark bullets can't hurt you. And when you're light, you do double damage to dark enemies and light bullets can't hurt you. And that mechanic was taken from this game. But the difference in this is that in Silhouette Mirage, you don't change your polarity by hitting a button. You change your polarity by walking left or right. When you walk left, you're purple, I guess. When you walk right, you're red. But other than that, it's the same sort of thing. You deal double damage to the opposite polarity. The problem is that there are freaking just enemies everywhere because it's a platformer. You get surrounded from all sides. The polarity system's just clunky in this game. You have a shot meter so you can shoot the enemies to damage them, but it has limited ammunition. And the only way to refill your ammunition is by destroying enemies by throwing them when they are the opposite color of the way you're facing. Which is really hard to use because you're being swarmed by enemies from all sides. So you're like trying to shoot the red enemies with the freaking red bullets, and then you gotta jump over them and then turn to the left and grab them and throw them to the left to get ammunition for your purple shot. It's just a lot to manage. I love to use Street Fighter as an analogy for the games I talk about, and I'm gonna do that again here. Imagine if you had limited punches. You're only able to throw so many punches in a round to get your enemies down to 0 health. But even when they get to 0 health, you're not able to finish them off unless you do a body throw from their right. You have to be on the right side of them and throw them to the left side of the screen, and only when you do that do you actually beat them and refill your punch ammunition for the next fight. Would you want to do that? Does that sound like something you want to do? Like spend all this time getting your enemy down to 0 health and they can't die until you take them out in the perfect way? I get that happens in like Mortal Kombat with like a fatality and things like that, or finishing moves, but even if you just punch them in Mortal Kombat, it ends the round. It doesn't do that in this game. You basically have to keep throwing them to stay charged up. That's annoying. You can't focus on what your polarity is, so you end up just button mashing through everything. This game's supposed to be a lot better in Japan, but it was brought over to the United States and ported from the Sega Saturn to the PlayStation 1 by Working Designs. A lot of people love Working Designs, but they did have a habit of increasing the difficulty of their games. just to make you mad. There's no reason they did it. They changed the games from the way they originally were and made them harder for the US market. I've never understood that. And the way they did that in this game is they made the enemies bullet sponges. They take like 4 times more damage than they did in the Japanese version of the game. So when you take them out and they drop these crystals to try to replenish your energy, you have to hope that that's enough to compensate for how much energy you used to beat them. It's a constant struggle to stay powered up in this game. And not only that, you have no invulnerability frames in this game. So the enemies will just stun lock you and there's nothing you can do about it. They'll just drain all your health. Now, they do give you 9 continues in this game, which is really nice, but they have a weird continue system that I don't understand. There's only 9 continues per save file. So if you beat the game using 6 continues, the next time you play it, you only have 3 continues. What is this crap? Are you kidding me? The only way to start over with 9 continues is to delete your save files. What nonsense is this? I do not understand that. Have you seen that mechanic in any other game? I can't think of any time I've ever seen anything like that. This game spent years on my wish list and I was always waiting to find a good deal on it, and I finally did get a good deal on it. It was still a little pricey, but I absolutely regret spending so much money on this game. I hated this game. I hate this game. I know a lot of people love this game. It's supposed to be a fantastic game. I just hate it. That's my opinion. It's one of the biggest disappointments of any game I've ever played because I was looking forward to it for literal years. One of my favorite games of all time was based off this game, and this game sucks. I do not think it's a good game. I regret buying it. Up next, we have a game on the Nintendo 64. I know a lot of you guys love the Nintendo 64. It's full of a lot of great 3D platforming collectathons, and this is one of them. At least it's one of the collectathons. It's not a great game. It's based off a terrible movie. It's Blues Brothers 2000. Guess what? If I were to ask you guys out there what the worst game of all time is, I bet a significant portion of you would say it was Superman 64. I see that game at the top of the list of many of the worst games ever made. And would you believe that the makers of Superman 64 also made this game? You play as Elwood, I guess that's his name. What's his last name in the Blues Brothers? Elwood Blues? Is his last name Blues? That can't be right. It is. His name's Elwood Blues. Okay. Anyway, you have to explore around the levels, finding these music notes, which can be pretty hard to find. You also have to find the missing members of the band as well as their musical instruments. And it's just awkward, boring crap over and over and over again. There's no variety in this game. One of the things about 3D platformers that makes them so intriguing is the different variety and the different stages and the different mechanics you have to do to get through them. This game doesn't have any of that. It's just the same thing over and over and over again in bigger and bigger and bigger areas. The controls are really weird. Jumping's hard. There's like a delay, like a wind up when you press the jump button. You press it and then like Elwood crouches and jumps. And it makes it really difficult to get around. Also, some of the freaking mechanics you have to do on the controller, the game never tells you how to do it. And it's really weird button combinations like press Z and hold down on the bottom yellow button on the N64 controller and like double tap left. Like weird stuff that you would never figure out unless you saw it in the manual, and I don't have the manual to this game. I end up having to look up how to play it online, and I don't ever like doing that. Why can't you just give me a prompt on the screen? You're not doing anything in this game interesting enough to warrant having to do some weird button combination like that. There's just no reason to do it. You're just like walking around. Now you might think to yourself, well, that's not so bad. There's only 4 levels in the game. I can knock this out really quickly. Well, guess what? If you don't find every single music note, meaning every single collectible in the stage, it makes you play the level over again. Imagine if you were playing Banjo-Kazooie, and if you missed any single collectible, do it all again, buddy. Do it all again. You didn't find it the first time around, you probably won't find it the second time around. Just keep looking. Just waste more and more of your time running up and down these drab areas, up and down these terrible corridors, going from room to room. It's so irritating, it's not fun. And the developers knew it wasn't fun, so they decided to add some pizzazz into the game by adding these rhythm sections, which guess what? Are also not fun. This game plays like crap. It doesn't play as badly as Superman 64, but at least Superman 64 is like funny bad. It's not good bad, it's funny bad. This isn't even funny bad. This is sad bad. This game is awful. It's atrocious. I think of all the ones we've talked about, this is the one you'd be least likely to get me to play again. I do not like this game. I loved the Blues Brothers movie, the original that came out. Blues Brothers 2000 was like an abomination. This game is worse than that. It's up there with Superman 64. If you don't believe me, you should give it a try. And last up, we have a game on the Atari 2600. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this game because the world record stood for many decades on this and people thought it was unbeatable. Turns out the guy was just a big cheater. But the game is Dragster. I have never been able to figure out how to really freaking play this game. You're just drag racing. All you do is rev your engine and then shift through the gears as fast as you can to try to beat the other racer and get the fastest time. That's all there is to this game. You know, like when you play a fighting game and you have to learn like the button sequence presses for a combo or like a fatality or a finishing move or something like that? That's just what this game is. It's like, how fast can you do Liu Kang's fatality? Like the button combo, like down, down, forward, corner, circle, X. It's not even that bad. It's just like hold the button and then like tap down 6 times. But to tell you the truth, I can only get it to work like 1 out of 15 tries. Every time I just blow my engine immediately. This game is probably the shortest game that ever exists. You can get a game over in like 2 seconds. And when you beat the game, it's only like, I don't know, 9 seconds long? Is that how long Dragster is? 9 seconds? Fun game, dude. $50 for a 9-second long game. I love it. Who wouldn't love that? I know there are games you can beat really quickly, like you just walk left off of the screen and the game like rolls the credits or whatever. But is this the shortest game of all time? You can actually truthfully beat it and reach 100% completion in it? 8-9 seconds? That's it. That's the whole game. I hate this game. I've always hated this game. I've hated this game for 35 years. I played this game when I was 6 or 7 years old. I've hated this for so long. There's some good games on the 2600. This is a classic, but I do not think it's a good game. I think it's one of the worst games I've ever played. All right, everyone, there are 8 of the worst games I've ever played. If you have any suggestions or if I missed any, let me know down in the comments. Also, if there are any other kind of videos you would like to see, let me know. I'm in an experimental mood. Thanks so much for making it this far to the video. If you did, I really appreciate it. I would also like to take this as an opportunity to thank the channel members and patrons. You can see their names on the screen right now. If you're interested in helping me out a little bit more than watching the video, you can find the link in the description down below or go over to patreon.com/RNGgamer. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate all of you, and I'll catch you next time.